Thank you for starting. I'd like to call to order the February 1st, 2024 meeting of the Historic District Commission for the city of Saugatuck. Sarah, could you help us with a roll call, please?
Draper,
Here.
Patterson,
Here.
Narza,
Here.
Donahue,
Here.
Garvin,
Here.
Godfrey, here.
We have quorum. Thank you. Are there any agenda changes, additions, or deletions from what we have in front of us?
None from staff, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes from our regular meeting held January 4th, 2024? And if so, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? All right, thank you. And we'll let the roll call show that we have a full family house.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Are there any public comments on the agenda items tonight? Yes.
I wrote something, I'm gonna read part of what I wrote, but someone brought something to my attention that I want to address too,
Okay.
so.
Would you like introduce yourself, Catherine?
Huh?
Would you introduce yourself, Catherine?
Oh, okay, good evening, I'm Catherine Simon, 428 Butler Street. I'm here this evening as a follow-up to my letter of January 12th regarding the proposed mural on the side of the Butler Pantry. Simply put, my interest is to support my neighbor with his graphic talent by painting a historic moment of time in our community. Having researched the history of mural art, it is clear murals are also a form of communication. Attached are two types of public art. The first is Saugatuck's very own crosswalk. Perhaps seen as political, the flag colors tell our guests we are an open and diverse community. We celebrate our diversity and take visible pride in such. Secondly is an advertisement, which I love. On a building in downtown Holland, the faded brand names are reminiscent automobiles driven by our grandparents, the DeSoto. What a wonderful piece of local art for all of us to see. Now I'm going to jump down. There's a quote from something I found online. You can have it. Tourists and guests have the opportunity to be visibly drawn to the north end of the business district, enjoy a piece of art history, and acknowledge the valued Chicago brick on the building. I respectfully request the board reconsider their prior motion. Thank you. Now, on the back this afternoon, I realized we have two other murals here in downtown Saugatuck. One is at the SCA and the other is over near the waterways. Now, I don't recall myself either of these being addressed by the historic district. They're both in the historic district, okay? They're both fun pieces. Painting, as my understanding, has never been a qualifying measure. And as far as who's the artist and all of that, this one was bring your roller and your brush, and it was a community project down at the SCA. And it was maybe schematically outlined by someone, but the painting of it was done by many community members. This one here, I didn't even know it existed till this afternoon. And this again is a fun piece appropriately put down by the restaurant area. And it also again identifies the rainbow, the colors, our openness, etc. The one proposed by the gentleman across the street, Teeman, is a historic, very monochromatic, gray, brown on brown, beige on beige, very quiet piece. But it's really lovely. If any of you have taken the time to go in the Butler Pantry, look at some of his maps, etc. He's really a hidden gem that we just don't know about or have not had the introduction to his work. These are just fun neighborhood kind of art. But his piece was really substantially a gift to us. And we're looking at some rule or thinking someone disobeyed something when I don't even think the gentleman was aware of the need, because I don't think that one was approved. We can FOIA the stuff on both of these murals, and this is what our community's about, fun. And that's a good piece of history. And I think we ought to take a look at what this gentleman has done and painted, etc., many, many maps. And you wouldn't know it from meeting him, but he's a good heart and a good soul. And I think it's a talent that we're ignoring. Thank you.
Thank you for your opinion, Catherine. Any more public comment? Yeah.
Hello, 449 Water Street, Christine Murphy Pierce. I just want to thank Ryan and staff for streamlining the process of working on the outdoor patio. It was very rogue. It was very not written well. We were just kind of, doing it to stay in business. So I know that it has been quite the feat to go through all of this and work with everybody. And I'm sure there's going to be other hiccups down the road getting it together, but I think we're getting closer than we have been. With that being said, I didn't know where to start when doing a proposal to the historic district, just because there's not any historic outdoor patios. So I hope everyone's open to talk about it or cut whatever needs to be done. I kind of just went with what I originally had. And if something needs to be changed, whatever, I'm open to talking about that. Planners, plants, whatever you guys want. It is temporary. It's not a structure. It's not going to have a roof. It's basically going to be the same that it is, just smaller. So I follow the guidelines better, but I just wanted to say I'm open to suggestions or whatever. There wasn't just much to go on what we're supposed to include in the packet. So, but I do thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments, Christine. Any other public comment? Okay. Thank you. We will move on to unfinished business. Is there any? And if not, we'll move straight to new business. The first application is 685 Lake Street renovation to an accessory building. Hi there.
Hi.
How are
I'm,
you?
Kathy Hart, 685 Lake Street. My husband Craig Steenberg back there.
Nice to meet you.
We're applying to try to save the building, basically. The roof is completely shot. It's covered with vinyl, very ugly vinyl siding, and the windows are rotten. So as you can see in the packet, I don't know if you have any other questions. We want to redo the roof, redo the siding with engineered siding, which is the same as on the house from 13 years ago, 14 years ago, and same on the garage. The colors will be the same, this green and red Merlot trim, unlike the yellow and brown being seen in the cabin there.
Terrific.
Originally, and you'll see in the documents, we originally were considering putting a deck on those two sides, the ones that are facing. And with the zoning and setbacks being a problem there, we've decided that's not worth it for us. So, but there won't be a deck. There'll be an access to the door, but that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Just in case anyone's new to the process tonight, the way the Historic District Commission works is any amendment to the application that you want to share, which is what you just did. Thank you. And we have it in front of us. We've looked at everything prior to the meeting. And then we go around the table and make sure each commissioner has a chance to ask clarifying questions or comment, and then we call for a vote. So I'll start this way on this one. And John, do you have any clarifying questions or comments?
Just two questions. Is our printout got cut off a little bit, but that little roof, shed roof, the roof will stay on the porch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the door actually where that ramp is. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, good.
There's-
Just wanted to make sure
We're
that,
gonna retain
Yeah.
the same roof.
okay. And then the windows, do they match the house?
No,
No,
not at all.
not at all. Okay.
No.
I mean, the new ones.
It's the new ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the new ones will be closer to the house.
That's what
yeah,
I meant.
mean, these-
I'm sorry.
these
The
don't, yeah.
new windows match what you did when you did your renovation?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and your rebuild?
basically.
Yes. Okay, that's all I have.
Yeah, and I think in the drawing, you show the porch that was going to be there that because of setbacks you're not able to do. And you mentioned that you're going to have a step up for the entrance. It's going to be a simple step up with, basic design then.
And we're gonna
Okay.
we're
So
gonna
the draw-
landscape instead of,
Okay, so
Yeah.
the drawing doesn't reflect what that's,
right.
okay,
Yeah, we thought we were gonna do the deck to begin
Got
with,
it.
so.
okay.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Well, Laura?
Keith asked the question I would have asked, so I'm fine. Thank you.
Russ?
Good evening. This is an aspect of, there's a lot of chatter in the community about the need for a historic district, right? This to me is an example of why we have it, because I don't personally know the history of this building other than it's been there for who knows how long. Who knows what it was used for, right? It's got the louvered windows, which are gonna be replaced, but it's the kind of the old
Oh.
school kind of thing. And the fact that you're, proposing to invest in this to preserve it, fully in support of that. I think that that's an example of why the historic district, in my opinion, is important to our community. Because this could easily disappear and you'd lose any kind of sense of, even though this isn't visible to the street, the people that are in boats, kind of makes the landscape, right? So I just appreciate your efforts to make this right. So thank you.
Thank you, Russ. I guess the only thing I would ask is making sure we have cut. Oh, sorry, Nico. Sorry, forgot you came in. Please go ahead.
I'm good. Anything you do.
I'm good. Thank you. Are you sure?
You're right about that.
I have one more question.
Yeah,
I just have one more question. What's the foundation going to be? I don't see that.
It's on block, right? It's on.
But is the lattice gonna go away or?
Oh, we'll have to do something there, yeah.
Right.
Most of it's already deteriorated, but a lattice thing will have to be there, yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
Nico, you sure? Anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Didn't want to take your voice away there.
Nope.
I think my only question would be, and I echo what Commissioner Garner said. I really appreciate ancillary buildings are really important. Outbuildings are really important in telling a story, especially along that street. So thank you for doing to that what you're doing to it. LP siding, we usually do not approve a stamped siding. I think maybe when you did your house, it was in the early days of cement board. There weren't a ton of options. So I'd be curious what the commission's point of view is of allowing it because the house is already in that versus our guidelines and what we usually approve is non-stamped or sort of what we call false grain. Does anyone have an opinion about that?
I saw that and I kind of let it fly in my own mind thinking that this was not a contributing structure. And it was a question I forgot to
Yep.
ask, but since it wasn't, in my mind it was okay to do that, but I don't know the right answer.
Well, so the other thing, just for consistency that we've typically done when we have allowed stamped, it in a non-contributing structure, when something like vinyl siding, which has a pattern to it, is coming off, a pattern goes back on. By right, you could put vinyl siding on this. So I think we would all agree that that would be horrible because that's and you could do that. So I really appreciate the added energy to make it match the house and do it in a quality way. So I'm inclined to be okay with that, given the fact that it's a textured vinyl on there now. But I just wanted that for the record for consistency so that we do follow our own rules with consistency. Cut sheets, they're in here. Do you need anything else, Ryan?
No, not on this one.
And then just on your last comment, if you are putting lattice back up, just a reminder that like for like would be putting, I think that's wood. putting wood lattice back up, not a PVC. Yeah.
We're not big on plastic.
Okay. Good. I also, just last commentary, I really appreciate this to add as a chaser to my comment about ancillary structures. Old Pike Cottages did such a lovely job in preserving a bit of history of the relationship between small structures along the lake shore, and this adds to that. I think, Russ, to your point. Anybody else have anything? And if not, could I encourage someone to make a motion?
Sure, I'll give it a shot here. Just let me get back up to it just a moment. And I didn't hear anybody make mention of any additional conditions to the motion. Okay. I move to approve the renovation of the existing accessory building at 658 Lake Street in accordance with the plans and details submitted within the application materials. Approval, oh, we'll strike that last part. I'll leave the motion there.
Perfect. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Will. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? All right. Thanks so much. Good luck on your project. Thanks for improving. Okay, we will move to, covered up my agenda. 311 Water Street. Thank you. 311 Water Street is a page 26. I do this all the time. 26.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could.
No, I'm looking for the agenda.
Oh, here.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could, as the next few are related to, outdoor dining areas, just to provide a little bit of context, to the commission. And, Ms. Murphy from Wix, touched on this during her public comments and I think was pretty spot on with her comments. So just give you, a little bit of, this history and then kind of maybe explanation on these being before you and things for you to consider this evening. So back in 2015, the city, at least more formally added, sidewalk dining essentially into, the zoning ordinance. And so it's kind of a formalized that process where if there was going to be sidewalk dining and the use of public space that needed some more formal approval. Obviously, fast forward, so a number of these received approval at that time, and we fast forward a little bit to the pandemic in 2020, and Saugatuck, much like many other communities, had to act quickly and act fast to allow folks to kind of move outdoors, expand things outdoors. And so what you saw was a period of time where Saugatuck, like other cities, issued kind of temporary approvals or temporary licenses for sidewalk dining, and in the case of Saugatuck, they also allowed an expansion of dining into the streets. And so while the pandemic was occurring, there was these emergency orders in place, and there was kind of temporary approvals in place. So now that the pandemic has kind of calm down. We don't have those, public health emergencies to worry about. We had to get to a point where then we're more, formalizing our long-term approvals if this is the direction that we're going to go. And so the city council last year gave direction to staff or allowed staff to kind of continue some flexibility for the 2023 season, with the understanding that in 2024, folks would have to kind of comply with all of our ordinances on the books. So what we're seeing is, some dining that you may have already seen before now kind of come forward to get those more permanent approvals going forward. So they're going through a zoning process. Anything in the historic district is kind of under your purview as well. And so, and the reason for that is, I mean, you might commonly think that, well, we typically only look at like buildings or structures. So if you look at this, then kind of gets into your historic district ordinance and kind of breaking it down and doing a little bit of analysis. So your historic district ordinance says a permit shall be obtained before any work affecting the exterior appearance of a resource. So there's multiple words in that sentence that actually are defined by the historic district ordinance. So as you break it down, you say, well, what is a resource? A resource is something that's publicly or privately owned. So in this case, we're talking a lot about public space, and it can be not just structures, but it can be sites, it could be objects, it could be features or open spaces. Those are also things that are considered a resource within your district. So then we look at, well, what's the definition of work? And that includes alterations, and alterations essentially is any exterior change of, or any change of exterior detail, regardless of whether or not the work changes the resource's basic size or shape. So when you really put all of that together, you get to a point where outdoor dining areas change the exterior detail of a resource's structure, site, objects, features, or open space that triggers a review by you. Ms. Murphy's corrected. There's not really like on point guidelines in your more formal historic district guidelines. Perhaps patios or something along those lines might have some similarities and give you some context. But your ordinance, and you'll see that Dave and I had this discussion and referenced it in your reports. Your historic district ordinance mentions guidelines, and certainly it points to the more formal historic district guidelines that you've adopted, but it also contains some other considerations such as, and this is on every case, you're supposed to evaluate the historical or architectural significance of the resource and its relationship to the historic value of the surrounding area, the compatibility of the exterior of the structure and the space around it with the visual or historical context of the surrounding area, the impact of the exterior of the structure and the space around it on the village or rural character and contextual aesthetic of the city. And then there's the D is kind of a catch-all of any other factors which the commission considers to be pertinent. And so at least from a staff perspective, we thought that it was important to bring these to you as a full commission because there's not clear guidelines for staff to even evaluate on an administrative level and really what your review and guidance on how you view these. So that's kind of a quick of it of why they're before you this evening. So
Ryan,
Perfect.
excuse me.
Go ahead.
That's extremely helpful. Thank you for that
Yep.
overview. Have these proposals gone through the city council already? I mean, what's the,
The path.
the sequence?
So it could go in multiple directions. The direction that we've been, suggesting to applicants is that they go through the zoning and historic district processes, and then ultimately the city council is approving the use of the space, not whether or not it meets zoning or historic district requirements. So I think by having zoning and historic district approval, that allows the council to know that, hey, it meets zoning requirements, the historic district commission's good with it. That's probably gonna make them more comfortable in making a decision on whether or not they're willing to allow the use of the space. At the end of the day, the city council ultimately does have the authority to say yes or no because it is use of public space. And they also have the ability at any point to revoke the approval of the public space. So that's something that, that's out there too.
Helpful. And have any of these gone through zoning at this point?
Yes, 650 Water Street, that's on your agenda this evening, although this is a newer outdoor dining area, did go through zoning.
It did.
Yep, and it was one of the conditions is that they receive your approval. And then the other two, 311 Water Street and 449 Water Street are scheduled for a couple weeks from now.
And then one final
Yeah.
inquiry. In your opinion then, Ryan, do you feel that these should go through zoning first and then to us, or you don't feel the sequence is critical?
I think either way on the zoning or historic, you can't approve something zoning doesn't approve and zoning can't approve something that you don't approve. So, I mean, zoning approval is specific to the zoning approval. If you were to deny it or want some changes, then
Good.
we may have to actually go back to zoning and say, all right, they've rearranged things and changed the site plan. And so,
Okay.
yep.
Appreciate that overview. Thank
Yep.
you.
And I would only add, just prior to jumping into these applications, since it's another broad stroke comment, this came up 5-6 months ago, something like that, between Ryan and I in terms of the need to make sure that we were following the right process, since this is kind of a thing now in the village. And that if someone were to want to build a structure or do something, that would have to come through the HDC. And so to be consistent, everyone comes through, even though it appears like most folks are not applying for a structure, that we would have to think about the mass or the relationship to a contributing or non-contributing structure. But it felt like the right thing to do to send it through. For transparency, I wanted to mention that in preparing for these rounds, that we'll probably have some more in the next couple meetings as well. When we were talking about this, a lot of folks reached out and said, what do I do? How do I do this? Christine Murphy, who just spoke, reached out and said just that. And I offered a perspective coming into the meeting, which was exactly what I just said. If it's a structure that alters the mass or the siding and feels more permanent in nature, I could see where that would have, the HDC would have more of a point of view than something that comes up and down for the season and is not structural. So that's as far as we chatted. But I think that maybe helps move us along in this conversation too, just acknowledging kind of the nature of these things.
So just a question. So as far as structure, you mean structure that's put permanently on? So a structure that's built, and I can't think of the name of this specific address, but the one that has the swings and the big, would that be considered?
And I brought that up. If someone were to come and propose that, I mean, all of us would have a voice on that, but that feels like a structure beside a building.
Great.
Where really most other, I think, previous applications, meaning examples, don't fall in that category. They're more like what I call sort of planters and rope that visually identify a space for a diner to eat, not a structural signal of restaurant outside. So let's go ahead and get started for new business 311 Water Street, which is the first one on our list.
The applicant is here, Mr. Chair. Yep.
What's that?
So the applicant
yeah.
approaches.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm from Boardwalk 311 Water.
Hello.
Hi there. Anything you'd like to add to anything in your application that's not already here?
No, I believe that is all.
Okay.
That I can contribute. It's just, I would like it to go through for the permit and get my tables outside.
Thank you. We'll go around the table on each one. Nico, we'll start with you.
So I guess my question is, and maybe I'm missing it, what material or what is your barrier gonna look like? Or are we even discussing it?
We don't have a
Yeah,
barrier.
ask whatever you'd like.
Because you don't have alcohol, so you don't.
I
have a
don't
barrier.
serve tables. Those are for public to sit. Basically, I let anybody sit there. They don't have to shop from me. It's just like picking tables for people. Because we don't serve tables.
Gotcha.
Yeah, page
Okay,
30.
I'm fine.
Thank you, Russ.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're able to join us this evening. So for the benefit of the Historic District Commission, putting on my city council hat, we see these routinely. We've seen these properties come to us for approval in the past. From my experience with this particular property, I don't see anything here that's different than what has been done before. So it's just, he's following the process. Thank
Yes.
you. So, and then putting on my Historic District Commissioner hat, I don't really have a lot of opinion on what chairs they choose or what the picnic tables are. Honestly, what I like is I like a little bit of variety, right? Some eclectic looks, right? Reflecting the business owner's resources and their personal, needs. So I'm not looking for any kind of unanimity amongst all of these. My other concern is making sure it's safe, that people are not going to be injured by it, that pedestrians really have the opportunity to move through there freely and not be impeded. But that's really not our purview. So I just, I like the fact that, people, try to respect everything they have to do to make this work for them. And, I just appreciate seeing this and thinking about it a little bit differently, but I have no issue with it.
Thank you. Laura?
Appreciate your application. I love the fact that you keep that sidewalk so open. And that's not obstructed on both sides.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that.
Plenty of space, yeah.
And I find that the table and the umbrellas that you use are tasteful. They certainly were last year. So hopefully you continue in that form. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will?
I only had I meet at your establishment a lot of times.
Yeah.
Last year, this is to get both just overall picnic tables, even though we had them last year. Do I understand that right? So we're just, or you're doing the other side now? Is that what it is? Okay, right, that's all I had.
Thank you. Keith?
No questions.
John?
The tables, you're gonna get rid of the wooden tables that you have now, the yellow
Yeah,
ones?
that's an old picture, I
Picture.
believe. Yeah, the new picture, I believe Ryan has the new. Yeah.
They're all gonna be the same, the
yeah,
ones you
same
have
gray-
on the,
Gray color, like light gray, but
so
that's
everything
it.
will be the same now.
Same, exactly the same with umbrellas, yeah.
Okay, with the umbrellas, yes. I have no other questions.
I don't have anything. I appreciate you filling out an application.
All right, thanks for.
Would
your time.
anyone like to make a motion?
Well, I move to approve the outdoor dining area in accordance with the plans and details submitted within the application materials. There are no conditions.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Opposed? Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming in tonight.
Thank you.
We'll move right on to 449 Water Street. Come on back up.
Hi, Christine Murphy Pierce, 449 Water Street.
Anything else you'd like to add to the
No.
application?
I would like to basically do the same thing that I have done, but in the more measured guidelines. It's a weird, that corner is weird. There's like 4 spots, but there's really 5 spots. There's that little dip. I don't know if everyone knows about the little dip, that I'm not quite sure why it's ever there, but we just keep painting it yellow. But I would just do the exact same picnic tables, black things. But then also we're talking about this on the mulch area, picnic tables on the mulch area where I've previously had them.
Great. I will start in the middle this time. Go this way. Keith? do you
No
have any-
questions?
Will?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
It goes to it goes to whoever made the point of, it seems like it gets very congested.
It
in
does.
there, And and I know we're using public space, but do you ever have an issue with being able to have people walk through there?
No, with the and strollers are just getting bigger and bigger. It's like small cars now. So I can't really, but I would say when at 9:30 AM, when the chain ferry comes over, it gets a little congested, but the majority of the time it flows through and it's at the correct feet and stuff. So it's usually, it's great. People look at the food and they see, it's actually a nice little walkway kind of thing for everyone to see the community.
And Will, I'm sorry, but Will, can you use the microphone a little bit closer for us? Yeah. Sorry, just we can pick you up.
I always forget about it.
My, the only other question is, was there something in here about just validating or finalizing the lighting that went around it? It was not mentioned, or was that another one that I saw?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just doing the same string lighting that I've done with the tall posts and the barrels.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Laura?
I'm mixed on this one.
Oh.
Mostly, and the reason I was questioning Ryan is I'm still having trouble with the rationale for taking parking spaces for outdoor dining.
That's fine.
Now that things have sort of changed.
Yep.
So aside from that,
Mhm.
the aesthetics of this are not, I'm having trouble with that. It's the poles and the barrels and the reflective lighting, given the congestion.
Yeah, those
Um,
are all required. The lighting, the reflectors, those are all required. So
Exactly, you have to have it.
I have to
So,
have them. So if there was trust me, if there was a way to do it and make it look really pretty, but what happens when you start making it, then you're building a structure. So it's because trust me, I've looked at every different way and I don't necessarily love everything. Pictures don't really do it justice either. It's a lot prettier than that. But like once you start putting up fences then I feel like you're more of a structure than you are a temporary outdoor eating space with wind, with leaves blowing. I'm out there blowing and sweeping every morning, getting all the straws and things like that up. So to me, having the more vented area definitely works better than especially in this large area that I have, than it does if I had like a more cohesive fence. Like Wally's fence is lovely. And I looked at doing a fence just like Wally's, but I think it would be more of a structure and this is a big area and that's a big expense too. So I like my aesthetic. So, it works with everyone sitting there and everyone enjoying it, especially with the dogs out there. It's just more of a free feeling kind of European kind of feel.
Okay,
But thank you for your insight.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura. Russ?
Oh, thank you. No questions. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Russ.
Nico?
No, I think you've done a nice job, Christine.
Thanks.
I think, we walked past there, we've sat in there, and it never seemed to be much of a problem, and I think it looks pretty nice.
Thank you.
For what you have to work with.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Thank you. John?
Brings the town to life.
I try.
Um,
You know me, life of the party
Yeah.
here. Always doing something to making sure everyone's on their
You're always
toes here.
changing it up.
Welcome.
Quick question on the pole height.
Yeah.
Was that a requirement or where?
I
did that
don't
come
think
from?
so.
Is it-
It's just the way the strings lights were able to get high enough that no one would hit their head on them and they would swoop nicely. So, I mean, I can cut them down or whatever, but no, there was no requirement for that. It's just the way they were. If you want them lower, that's an easy fix. I just don't know how,
Did you
how,
consider anything besides wood posts? Just
no.
Okay. That's the only question and concern I have. Not enough to, I mean, I just think the whole thing
I
could
mean,
be
do you have some
simpler.
suggestion of like if I did a metal rod?
Metal
I
steel
could.
rod that
I
kind
mean,
of
that
with the
would be-
lights and it kind of disappears. I don't know that we need to see.
Okay.
They would look like a structure when you see these.
Right.
posts.
It's just the way, because the lights have to be so high to hit.
I get it.
It's,
get it.
it's tricky, trust me. I've tried every which way to make it look as pretty as possible, so. And I think they stick out a lot more when you're looking at it in a picture than when you're sitting or you're walking by with, do you know what I mean?
I've never noticed them
Them until-
until I saw the
yes.
picture.
So-
So.
I know.
I noticed the
I
lights
noticed
though.
them
I noticed the
because I
lights at
also-
night. I like the lights at night.
Yeah, and I also agree with you. And I almost put lights going down them, but then I thought they would really stick out.
No, I think you're right.
So that's why that didn't happen. But they
Thank
do look very large in that picture, so that will never be used again.
Thank you.
That won't be used again.
I just add one thing for all of us, which is typically for historic guidelines, in general, I think we always look for things that are unembellished. So I think this is successful because it's not embellished. The more someone tries to do in a historic district, the more it can feel like it's trying and it takes focus from the buildings that that's really like our purview, not this. So I appreciate that it's not embellished. It's the minimum that you need to do what you need to do. So
Thank you. I appreciate
I
that.
have no other comments. Anyone has, sorry, Russ, I missed you.
No worries. I
Gosh,
just
I'm
want to
not
thank
going- I
Commissioner
need
Canarsa
supervision.
for now calling out the polls, because I'm going to be obsessed about that when I walk by.
Too late, Russ.
Never noticed that, Christine, so.
I know,
but-
probably, now you're just gonna look,
That's what was getting me kind of
yeah,
concerned. I
and
thought, that looks,
that they look awful right there.
yeah.
They look awful, but when you're there, they don't look awful, I promise.
I-
You just look at the.
I actually have,
plans.
I kind of have the opposite point of view on
Thank you.
those. If they're pretty humble, they're not trying to do anything more than they're doing. And if you
Functional.
tried to put a
Functional.
metal pole there, it's going to look like a decorative phone pole.
Yeah.
which
I
pulls
just like
focus.
simple, easy, and it's also like a logistic thing for restaurants and cleaning and even just using the picnic tables and not having chairs because chairs move around all the way, all the time. Just having the picnic tables even makes it better too. Just simple, easy and
They
simple.
do match the table wood, so.
I try, I sand every winter, I stain them. You should see how greasy they get. It's with all the food that goes on them.
Anyone like to make a motion?
I will. I move to approve the outdoor dining areas in accordance with the plans and details submitted within the application materials with no conditions.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Thank you.
Opposed? Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate you working with us. Okay, we will move to 650 Water Street. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Sarah.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for taking the time to review our application. My name is Alec Palatner. This is my wife, partner, and chef, Lindsay. We're here to talk about a proposed new restaurant project at 650 Water Street, the site of the former River Market Deli. For those that don't know, Lindsay and I owned and operated Grow Cafe and Bistro just up the street here for the last 8 years, since 2016. A great run, but at this time, we're hoping to bring our experience and love for this town to a new project. We are very grateful to the Planning Commission and their time last month. There are still a few small administrative things to handle, but they've effectively put us in your hands for approval of the aesthetic concerns that fall under your purview. As our application lays out, we're here to talk on 4 matters today. First, the outdoor seating. As we've mentioned, Ryan continues his efforts to streamline the application process. This is kind of the second in our 3-phase of approval. The second and perhaps most nuanced and dare I say convoluted of this is the mechanical duct and equipment needed for our new kitchen hood system. Third, our new outdoor replacement sign. And fourth, a wooden privacy fence for our garbage cans outside. I'd like to just take a few minutes to elaborate on each point. First, our expanded outdoor dining area. As it sits in our application packet, we're looking to offer 30 additional seats to the east and north of the building. Seats to the north would have direct waterfront views using a previously untapped piece of simple concrete for our guests. And the seats to the east in front of the building would make use of a unique second sidewalk and a large entryway sidewalk. With little imagination, there's an obvious 5-foot sidewalk path along the street, rounding its way around our sign, past the boat launch and onto the Star of Saugatuck's property. Our furniture, which I've included specs of, will be vibrant, sleek metal furniture designed for all weather, easily mobile. As also mentioned, none of our outdoor intentions are permanent fixtures by any means. Second, like I said, the nuanced issue of our duct and equipment work on the north side of the building. The simple truth is that we don't know what this will look like until we get in there further. We have a talented team of contractors, restaurant designers, mechanical engineers, and architects that are working to develop a plan that best suits the need of this unique space. It is certainly in our best interest to keep this as functional, aesthetically appealing, and subtle as possible. As a portion of our outdoor seating, the plan is to be immediately adjacent to this work. Importantly, as you'll see in the actual photographs, our intentions on the north side of the building there are to add this mechanical and ductwork amongst all the other visible utilities that are already on the building. In the packet provided, the assessment rather, it speaks of the mechanical system and outside elements that are in usually the least visible location. And there was mention of the rear side of the building, which is actually quite visible because that's where some of the fishing boats come in. And there's also shedding and storage back there that would make it very difficult to have anything on the rear. This north side of the building is indeed what I would consider the least visible, least accessible, and again, where all the other utilities are. If you look at in your original packet, you'll see a rendering that was admittedly premature. I'm working every day to get updated information from our team. And again, although it's impossible to know the exact situation until we start the work, I have prepared some additional examples for you, and that's in the packet that I handed. The first, it's labeled B because I considered A the first rendering in your original packet, but the one that's the vent work labeled B is a rendering of the ductwork that we'd need. Yeah, we're looking at it right there. That we would need if we were to put the air return unit on the front roof. There is additional elements on there, and you can't hardly see them from the street because of the nature of how there's dwellings up top there and then a porch that wraps around front, and you can't even see it from the top, but there is additional air conditioning units, I believe is what they are up there. But if we could put the air return up top there, then that ductwork would lead. The end of the ductwork, if you see on the bottom right of the photo, is where the hood would be. So the hood falls on this side of the building, so it would lead right into there. There's a second page, is an actual photograph. Yeah, that one, perfect. That's an actual photograph in the bottom right there of a similar project completed by our restaurant designer in a nearby community. So this is the air return unit I spoke of that would be on the roof in that first example. This would actually be on the ground there where the 2 black lines lead. And then the subtle ductwork that would be the air return and then the vent beside it there. And that would run approximately that exact empty space there in that wall. It's about 3 feet off the wall and about 9 feet wide. Again, we don't have the exact equipment purchased yet, so these are just estimations based on similar equipment. I hope you can understand the predicament we're in, and we're hoping that you are able to give us permission to proceed with the work perhaps with some sort of administrative approval along the way. I'm not sure exactly what this looks like because we don't have exact look and feel of this. I have saved the most straightforward for the end, our signage, which is a simple replacement of the current River Market sign. We'd even be using the same posts, albeit with a bit of a paint touch-up. And then second, our wooden privacy fence. That is the third page of the packet that I handed you. The privacy fence in the original packet is indicated on the site plan, but it was brought to my attention that you'd like a little more detail on that. And so that's the hard copy that I handed you there, has detail of what that wooden fence would look like. Very simple, 4 feet high, 6.5 feet deep, 8 foot wide, including a gate style materials in the bottom left there. It would be simply to cover up where those garbage cans are located on the north side of the building. That section of the building is quite frankly invisible from the street as well because it's behind as we're looking at that, we're facing north. So this is the south side of the building. And that's just, you can't even see it from the street. But again, to hide the garbage cans is a positive thing. Thanks for your consideration and thanks for all you do. Keep our town clean, consistent, contemporary, and classic, my friends.
Thank you. Appreciate the overview.
you.
Why don't we start over here this time? Will, I'll start with you. Do you have any clarifying questions
Oh,
or
I-
comments?
Question, I know you're kind of still, you don't have to remind me more than once. You're still figuring out the air handler and is there a way that have you talked about putting any kind of a fence to cover that up at all?
We have not.
Okay.
I understand like a fence on the whole, like that would, if we were to do this example,
Yeah.
for instance, to a fence around it, sure, I'm certainly happy to entertain that.
Are you thinking it would look similar to the receptacle fence? Just
That's why I just thought it would cover some of that ugliness up no matter where you put it.
Yes.
Thank you. Laura?
A challenging building, and you're obviously dealing with some of that. So thank you for taking it on because
Yeah.
it's been sitting vacant for a while. So appreciate
Our privilege.
your contribution to bringing it back to some good use in life. With regard to William's question, since you're having seating along there, it would be nice to have some of that ventilation, that mechanical work covered up for, I'm sure the joy of sitting outdoors and eating. Aesthetically, I know you're working to make a lot of improvements. I like the table and chairs. I think those look really great. I know you're trying to decide on the final color. So that's great. And what a benefit to have 2 sidewalks so that you can have additional seating. So I have no other issues other than to bring those comments to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Russ?
Yeah, thank you. I love this. I literally live a block and a half up from this, so I've spent a lot of years using that boat launch. My dad used to have his boat behind what used to be Gleason's before it was Riverwalk. Very familiar with this property. I'm very excited. Your operations that grow are going to be missed. So I'm so happy to see that something's going in here. All my neighbors have been saying, hey, have you heard about this? I'm excited by it. In terms of what you're, trying to do aesthetically, I've really got no questions. The thing that does concern me the most, though, as just mentioned by Commissioner Godfrey, is the use of public property on the north side of the building for seating. I know in the scope, you've got 2 2x6 picnic tables, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
They're not picnic tables.
They're-
It's tables and chairs, but they're metal. There's six top tables,
Yeah.
so communal
Okay.
seating,
Yep.
similar to what a picnic table might offer, but.
Yeah, and will there be service to those tables?
It is a fast casual restaurant, so there's not full service anywhere. Essentially, the way it looks is guests will order inside, grab a number, similar like you would do at Culver's or something like that, and then the food will be brought to you. So not full service
Got
per
it.
se.
So not solely within the purview of the Historic Commission, but I do have an issue with the use of that property for seating. If any of you have been down there when that boat launch is being used, coolers are thrown up on that public sidewalk. There's fish thrown up on that sidewalk. There's a lot of activity at that boat launch. And I just don't see that it's going to be a good fit to have people sitting, eating a meal, enjoying that. And then all of a sudden there's a cooler thrown up on the, people are pulling boats in and out. I mean, there's a lot of noise, a lot of racket. And I just, and that's really not within our purview. But that's my concern is I would not support the use of that property for that use, for that particular portion. Everything else is great. I
Oh,
mean,
thank
I
you.
love the
That,
design and-
that's actually in our purview as hospitalitarians to maybe not provide that experience.
Yeah, I would-
So thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, so that, but otherwise, I'm fully supportive of what you're proposing here. I'm looking forward to eating.
Thank you,
there.
Mr. Gardner.
Welcome.
Thank you, Nico.
It'll be great. But if you could do you guys have a preference as far as the ventilation and like the makeup air systems? I mean, what you,
Like of the two proposals.
yeah,
And I think I would prefer it on the roof, quite frankly,
Yeah.
if at all possible, just take, it just, I think it's better. It's just a matter of of what the roof is, you know what I mean, what the roof looks like up there,
Right,
what,
right,
stru-
right.
there's a lot of heavy equipment up there right now.
right.
But it's,
So I guess my only thing would be, and I agree with Laura that, whatever screening that you guys could do would really be a benefit to try to hide what's there a little bit. So, but other than that, I've got no issues with anything.
thank you so much.
Thank you. John?
Thanks for doing this. I think a lot of these things to me are clear cut, like the garbage enclosure works. I like the seating on both sides. I don't think it interferes. I think it's gonna really bring life to this scene from the water. I think it's great. The sign, replacing the sign as is like for like, I have no problem with that. And I question whether this committee should even be looking at your ventilation system. Because to me, that is a utility and you have tons of them there already. I don't think it's within our jurisdiction. So, I'm not gonna weigh in on that.
Thank
I
you.
don't have no other questions.
Thank you. Keith?
Yeah, my only thing is, we talk about streetscape a lot. That will not make that any more busy than it already is. So from a streetscape perspective, it is gonna be what it is. You have to do mechanical bits and I have no issue with that.
And I guess my last, yeah. I don't either. I think paint would cover up a lot of sins on that side. So if you choose to do the lower version of this, I think the more you can paint the cacophony of utility out to the same color of the building versus highlighting, I think it'll help a lot and mask it. But I think that, I think it there, to Keith's point, there's already a lot going on. So it is, I just want to make note, this is a contributing structure, or Williams and Works determined that it was. So I'm only going to make that point because sometimes we don't think of a building like this as a contributing structure, but its role in the streetscape, I think, is really important for the time it was built and the character it adds. So I don't disagree with you, John, about the utility part. I think it would be a bigger deal on a contributing structure if nothing was there on a structure, but that road has already been taken from a utility standpoint. So that was just the lens I went through. And then Russ, I don't think you're wrong on the busyness of that, the words, Tim.
Platform.
Picnic tables on this, on the sidewalk there. I kind of don't see that as any more of a risk with the boat ramp than I do tables 3 feet from the street in terms of safety. I mean, fishermen, you're gonna have whatever, but I'm neither here nor there on that. I like you said, it's not really our gig to weigh in, yeah, but just an observation.
May I
Does
ask a
anyone-
question?
Yeah.
And there's not an addition to the application, but part of the planning commission was to have a guard fence there along the waterfront where the Ryan, maybe you could speak to that a little bit. We talked to, he was at the meeting as well, but and we haven't really gone down that path because it happened about 2 days before this application was due. But would that be something that the Historic Commission would weigh in on? Of what that looks like, whether it be a cable fence, it's a safety, totally a safety thing. So that
Yes.
people don't fall into the boat launch if they're sitting out there. That would be something you'd want to look at, I'm
Yeah, for
assuming,
sure.
correct? Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. that I might see in a month.
Well, yeah, and it might be something that we'll see, share things at the time. A railing, it was proposed as a railing, not a fence
Yeah,
or something
there-
along
right,
those
that's a
lines.
better
So, I mean, that was something that was flagged by our consulting planner and our engineer took a look and agreed, given the, you know, the sidewalk
Depth.
proximity to the water right there and the tight space that a railing be installed, although there was discussion at the planning commission meeting that area is used a lot for storage of certain items. And so it would need to be something that could maybe accommodate somebody still placing something, you know, on the sidewalk temporarily. So, but a railing is something that once we get to that point, yep.
But that would come to the commission. It could be something that staff approved, or it might need to come back, but,
Excellent.
I don't think that's out of the realm.
Thank you for answering.
Yeah, the other piece too, just the flag, I mean, you know, if it's the ground unit at some point that's needed, I mean, that's something that the zoning requires screening of if it's equipment at finished grade. So, I mean, that's another piece too, that if you end up having to have equipment at grade, we'll have to work through some screening for that area too.
Excellent.
Yeah, Chairman Straker, could you please advance this to page 69 of the PDF, please? Yes, thank you. So the picture on the right, which is the area that we're talking about. So the public property as it truly ends at the building. So everything
Hmm.
right of the building is public, correct? So in other words, that air conditioner unit is partially on public property. Is
Hmm.
that correct?
I believe the building goes all the way to they built it to the line, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
So.
Okay, so everything,
Oh, here we go. Yep. So you, 67 has the serve or the site.
yeah, I looked at
survey.
the survey too. So, okay. So the shaded area actually is in public property is what we're, just to confirm, I'm understanding the survey correctly, right?
No, so the dark kind of dotted line. So, I mean, it looks like a portion of the building encroaches into the,
Yeah.
you know, on city
Yeah.
property, correct?
Okay,
So the AC unit is on the city property as well.
okay. So then back to page 69, please. Thanks for clarifying that. So as I look visually at this, the area that's in yellow, which is the proposed, the new unit depending on how your exhaust unit works, could be on public property. So they have to be all that work that would have to be done to make sure that there's a revocable license for that, et cetera. However, I think back to our discussion a number of months ago to the property on Butler Street. There's a visual here from the street that's straight to the water. Equipment going in, which is a need for the operation, tables and a potential railing is going to change the visual to the water. So I just think about the discussion that we had. And I wasn't on the commission at the time, but was here as a neighbor. That was a very important thing. And I really applaud the commission for thinking about, because those visual sightlines are important. And this has just been, so that's where I'm thinking about this as well. Now that I'm looking at this and discussing this. It seems to be
Yeah, it's a really
somewhat,
good comment.
somewhat in keeping with what the commission has done before with sightlines.
Yeah.
I never really looked at this until now, like quite like that.
So can I bolt on to that? So kind of what you're leading to is there's two layers. If there is a requirement to shield the equipment, that could impact the sight line. And then if there's a rail of some sort to protect for safety, that's a sight line thing too. So those could be mitigated by choice. Where you don't do something that you don't impede on the river view, but that is something that's the reason, one of the main reasons the historic district exists is to make sure there's a relationship with the water and that doesn't get blocked. So it's a good comment. I sort of feel like we should make a motion, and if there is a fence or a railing that's needed, you come back to the city. Well, I shouldn't say that because that's going to be maybe part of the motion, but we just make the motion.
I'll make. a
Can I ask one more clarifying question on the railing? Because I'm thinking of retro boats and I'm thinking of the barge
Mhm,
and they don't have that.
mhm.
And I don't understand the difference other than that maybe that's a higher traffic.
Public property versus private, I think.
Okay, that's the difference. Isn't, well. Yeah, I guess it is.
It may not be. I mean, it seems like it is for retro and for the
But it's
barge,
not
I
a
think
code
it is.
requirement for safety for them, so.
Right.
The public property portion is maybe the differentiator, but, yeah, okay.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll take a stab.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
Making a motion for the property at 650 Water Street to approve 4 conditions: the outdoor seating, the exhaust vent, the outdoor sign, and the wooden privacy fence for the garbage cans, with slight codicil for the potential review of a railing at a future date.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Chairman Straker, just to clarify from the zoning administrator, the approval of this application this evening is not a approval of the exact seating because there could be other discussions regarding some of the things I brought up in terms of use and impeding the use of the ramp.
So,
Is that true?
well, it's correct in the sense that if they maintain their plans of wanting the seating there, I mean, the next step is that we need city council approval for use of the public space, and then
Okay.
the sign's actually in the city right of way, and so you know, that's something that the city council has to approve as well. And then obviously if a railing is going to be installed, we'll make sure that the council's okay with that.
Do you want a revision on the motion? Are you okay with the motion, Ryan, or does it need to be revised?
Can I ask a question? So since they don't have the exhaust systems kind of nailed down yet, is that something that we should exclude from this particular motion?
I think it's up to you. You could approve the 2 options, or you could approve 1 option, or you could, you know, make it subject to administrative review and approval. I mean, it's up to you and what you want to do with that.
I'll
Oh.
write the motion or make the motion based on what we're actually approving tonight.
The only thing about the ventilation would be if it's on the roof, it would eliminate the need for a look at a fence or a barrier. If that is in code, that it has to be covered.
That's the zoning requirement. Yeah.
So we could redo the motion to approve it on the roof so that we don't have to deal with the fence and we preserve the sightline in the process.
I would support that.
But they don't know structurally if.
They don't, you know, if you.
It might be impossible. That
Right.
might be an impossibility.
So what if we revise the motion as that is the preference for application? And if it can't be, to come back for staff approval of the side and with the appropriate barrier. And then we'll need to talk about what that barrier looks like. Is that?
Well, and the other consideration here too, and I'm just looking at where they have the ventilation running, and I mean, he can explain exactly where they're looking to have any roof mounted equipment that you have is also going to have a screening requirement. So I don't know exactly where you're looking to put it. I mean, so there is a factor there as well. Are you looking to put it like right in that middle photo? I mean, right in
This
that
is-
front section there? Or?
I don't know if I'm
Right.
overstating enough that I don't know.
Okay.
Right.
That's right.
Yes, thank you.
That we mostly know is that second drawing, or the second picture, that is an actual picture of a nearby property, that is definitely possible. But the one with it up on the roof, we don't know if that's a possibility. That's just something we are trying to work out because we prefer the look of not having it on the ground.
Sure.
But one on the ground is almost definitely possible, whereas the other.
So let's ground ourselves in the fact that as an HTC, we should be worried about the contributing structure. So we should be advising the applicant and making our vote based on the balance of the contributing structure and this thing going on top of it versus a contributing structure and potentially blocking a little bit of the view of the water. And I don't have a sense of how much you'll see that on the roof, especially with a barrier around it. It's also a little bit of a cacophony of fencing on the structure itself. So one person's opinion, I think it's almost more successful to put it down on the side. If the barrier can be minimized, then I would trying to add something more on the roof, especially if it has to have a barrier on the roof. That's like not necessarily an ornament I want to hang on that Christmas tree.
From a height perspective, that piece of machinery, I believe, is shorter than the air conditioner, if that makes sense. From a, like a sight line, from a sight line standpoint, obviously it is gonna come out a few feet, but from a height standpoint.
Real quick, maybe you already said it. What's under that shed awning there?
Right?
Yeah, the brackets are showing, but there's a.
That's just, I think that's just a weather guard for the air conditioner, but that's it. I'm almost, there's a
It's a snow
complete
guard.
side view in one of the,
See that
one of the
right there?
add-ons.
It's just, that's all. There's nothing else under it that it's protecting. It's just the air conditioner.
Yeah, let's just keep
Yeah.
snow and water off the condenser.
One person's opinion, I think the lesser of all evils is to keep all the equipment in one spot and paint it out and minimize the aesthetic. And I think that is a lesser of an evil, including some sort of barrier around that thing, than trying to put something on the roof.
Is it like a simple painted wooden enclosure that matches the building? Is that?
Well, you have a fence in your application, like to enclose
Yeah.
it's, our guidelines say that materials need to be natural. So as long as it's not a PVC, vinyl white fence.
You encourage a paint in that particular, because we did talk
It's up
about
to you.
painting the
It's up-
exterior.
yeah.
You-
I mean-
You'd mentioned that from the hiding all the,
Correct, but as far as a fence and asking for a fence, that's your choice. If you want it natural, if you would paint it,
doesn't matter.
as long as the material is what our guidelines say.
Maybe Tim, just clarify in case Alec and Lindsay didn't catch that I think when you said paint out as many of those pieces to match the siding as you can, including the brackets on that awning. And that awning had, I think, a old plastic wavy top on it.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
if that could
fiber
just be a
metal.
piece, did it?
Yeah,
It could be a
probably
piece
some
of
kind of
wood that's
fiberglass
painted
or-
out the color of the siding. I mean, the whole thing could go away without adding more structure to it
'Cause
and cutting down the sight line.
The other part about like the sight line that's important to the water is what's distracting you from that, which is all that stuff
Yeah, it
right now.
is.
So that stuff is as distracting in a way as a fence that might go around the air conditioner. So
And with vents and brackets, you can paint those for sure. There might be rules about the meters, but I've seen them painted. I've done it myself.
I don't know if we want,
Yeah.
so kind of back to the motion, I don't know if we want to revise that or if we want to leave it as is with a note, maybe just simply adding to that motion. Once your contractors make a firm recommendation, to come back to Ryan for staff approval against what we approved.
Excellent.
What do y'all think of that?
Sounds good.
It's good.
Russ, what do you think?
I'm in full support of this. I'm excited about this. Again, I'm thinking back to the comment I made earlier, I'll make it more brief, is that the sight line is incredibly important to this space, as we had discussed at the property up at Butler and Spear. So I think it's the same sight. As a matter of fact, if you stand up the street, it's the same sight line standing at my house looking down to the water. So if I stand up the street, so I'm just thinking back to the discussion that the commission had previously, and I think this is another example of where we need to be very careful about disturbing what is a current historic sightline to the water.
So
But either way.
Aside from the usage, which is a different discussion,
Yeah,
but
if we're seeking perfection here, we're not gonna have it.
no, I'm not going for perfection. I'm
But
just,
either way. It's,
So
it's,
in theory, I mean, screening can also be potted arborvitae.
Right.
So I think that's why I'm not trying not to focus on the materiality of the screening, rather
Right. Yep, I agree.
the approval we have in front of us. And then if there is screening that's needed, I think we can tackle that separately.
Agreed.
Is that logic?
Yep.
Okay,
So the motion is drafted should be.
I think we're okay.
Yep.
With maybe the amendment of if something,
Yeah.
should anything change from a contractor standpoint around placement, you either come back to apply for that change, or it can be staff approved.
Yep. Good.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Awesome. Thanks
Thank
for,
you so much for.
thanks for improving.
Thanks for your patience.
Okay, home stretch. New trash can and recycling pilot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Helen Baldwin is on Zoom and she's with the Parks and Public Works Committee, and I'll let her take the lead on this because this is on their project, so.
Thanks, Ryan. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
I want to thank you for consideration. As part of the PPW, one of our initiatives is always to advocate for sustainability, recycling, and overall, ecological stewardship. So we have brought forth with DPW a proposal to do a pilot program for recycling containers in the city. We're going to start with 3, and again, this is passed through city council and with the approval of DPW and working with DPW to come up with a pilot program for recycling bins. We're going to initially have 3 stationed across the community, 1 at Mount Baldhead, 1 at Village Park, and 1 in front of the pharmacy. You've got photos of them there. We've gone through them and done the best we could with it as far as what they look like, how heavy they are, the size, the shape, the weight, and the capacity that they'll hold. And these are the best that we have come up with all of them. You'll see that the recycling for now is going to be for cans and bottles. We don't, it's by design that we've got lids and covers. So for the cans and bottles, no one's shoving a pizza box in there and taking up, most of the cubic footage. And then the other is a covered trash can that doesn't fill up with water and get too heavy. So anyway, these are the designs that we've come up with between us and DPW, approved by city council, and we'd like your approval. And I'm asking for your vote tonight to put them into a historic district.
Thank you so much. Can I just ask a question? Do these replace all the current trash cans in town?
They wouldn't replace all of them. Right now, this is a pilot study only. And so there would just be those 3 stations that we're going to have them for now. And then as DPW says, how they fare with their, again, with the pilot initiative, emptying them, getting them sorted, and they've got a good plan in place for that right now. So these will only replace the ones at those 3 specific sites for now. And then if the pilot works out great and we like it, then we'll come back and request that they go toward to more areas.
And these are always brother and sister, right? They're always
Yeah.
side by side.
Correct.
Thank you. Sorry, I jumped in.
No, Helen, Laura Godfrey, thank you. Is this a 1-year pilot then?
I actually, that's a good question. I don't know. We're gonna try them out. I think that the plan is to try them through the summertime and see how they go, because they're going to be in some really heavily used areas. And so we want to see, again, we worked with DPW to see how they would be as far as, taking out the trash, getting them sorted, keeping them at the site at the DPW grounds. And so I think that they're going to get through the summertime really and see how that works and go from there.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Will,
No question.
Keith,
questions.
John,
No questions.
Nico,
No questions.
Russ.
Hi, hi Helen, thanks for being here. This is a vast improvement over what we currently have. The only question I have though is in terms of the colors themselves, and I know there's some signification with the blue and the black in terms of recycling and trash. Will there be some discussion regarding maybe having the bases be the same color and the tops being different colors to signal people? The blue and the black's fine. I just think from just what we've experienced in town, the more that it could blend in, the better, I think, but also make sure that people recognize what they're to be used for. Just a question.
I understand. And frankly, I would agree with you on that. But no, the recycle has to be the blue. We've talked to different vendors and that's really what it is. And that's really just kind of the universal design for it. And And so it's just really the trade-off. I do agree, and I understand that a more natural color is always more fitting, but we actually kind of want the recycle to stand out. And if people dispose properly of their plastic bottles and cans, but yeah, that it was considered, but it's not an option.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think it's also accessibility standards in terms of color, if I'm not mistaken, from a wayfinding standpoint.
Correct.
Um,
I am no trash can
Yeah.
expert.
I-
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that it blends in and it's not trying to be old trash can um, in a historic district. So thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll give it a shot. I make a motion to approve the new trash and recycling receptacles as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Laura. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Thanks for joining
Thanks,
us
Alan.
tonight.
Thank you for your consideration.
And we have 2024 goals as our last item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At your last meeting, there was there was mention of that it would be good for the commission to kind of discuss some potential goals and priorities maybe to focus on for this year. And so added it as an agenda item. Sure if you want to think about it some more and come back next month. This has been a little bit of a longer meeting than you're normally used to, right? But you know, we're here to write them down and get to work if you'd like.
Thank you. I appreciate you remembering to put that on, and it is important for us to do that. I don't know if we want to devote 5 minutes to some ideas, or if we want to come back to that and put it on the agenda for next month after we've had a chance to do a little deep dive individually. I'll add one thing, which Keith reached out to me today and asked about training. I think maybe one goal should be, there's 2 different types of training that I learned today. The state has separated it into 2 different functions, a basic training and an advanced training. I know in a couple other things I'm involved in, there's certificates, and I think it would be important that all of us have a certificate that we've gone through this and that be posted on the website so that members of the community know that we've done due diligence in understanding and applying our historic guidelines. So for those who've been on the commission for a while or a commission, maybe you want to do the advanced and help others with what we've learned on that. And others may want to do the basic and help others with what we've learned on that. So maybe that's one goal that I'll bring forward.
I support that. It's a great idea.
I have one that I thought of too, and it kind of goes in the bucket of education and awareness. Education and awareness. Thank you. And we talked a little bit about this, and it could be even what you said about appreciation for homeowners that have tried to follow the guidelines. It could be educating the community on what this group does, highlighting great jobs that have been done on preservation projects, something like that.
Great.
Love that.
Yeah, when you think about setting goals, there's always a proactive nature in setting goals. And I'm wondering if we could be more proactive instead of sitting back and always reviewing applications, if we could bring matters forward for inquiry to zoning or other entities and just have more surveillance and awareness and take a more proactive approach. That would be my suggestion.
Kind of like
Thank you.
Is something, do we?
The only other thing I could add to when we talked was norms for behavior for public facing commissioners. You know, it's always a challenge is what are the things that are appropriate to say in our context out of this meeting versus, you know, opening a loop that you don't know how to close. I mean, that's a classic engineering problem. It's no different than dealing with the public.
Yeah,
You know,
great point.
we had that, you know, what can we say? What's appropriate to say? And I think that's a pretty normal thing, but it's, a lot of us aren't used to it if you've been in industry all your life and all you had to do was get stuff done. Here it's a different rate and there's a lot more consideration. And I'm not sure I know what those norms are.
It's a great,
I got a
great,
good
great
guess,
call out.
but I'm sure we've been through that before.
Great. Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Straker. I am fully on board with this. I think this, actually, I think I'm the one that brought it to the table initially because of my experience with the planning commission, part of which was training. I think that's an excellent idea and I'm more than interested in participating in that. My only suggestion would be, as we talk about the goals, is that we keep them as simple and achievable as possible. I don't think we want to try to overdo it. I think training and education, I think as Commissioner Patterson said, I think there could be some opportunities even with planning commission and council on how do we work with the public? You know, there's boundaries and sometimes it's not clear where those boundaries are. So I think that would be something to discuss as well. So I support that, but I would just say, let's try to keep it something achievable, measurable, that we can say at the end of 12 months, yep, we hit the goal or no, we did not.
Awesome. How do we know we're successful at the end of that? Yeah, great.
Would we publish these goals as like
Sure.
this is what we're gonna see? Okay.
Sure. I mean, I think these goals can also be front and center on our agendas every month, sort of like a really good meeting objective should be at the front of every meeting in the corporate environment. We used to also have the, it's at the end. It's at, we had the sort of mission statement of the district. It's at the end of our agenda every day. So I think it's a good ride along with those.
Well, maybe we should put that right at the top
I
instead,
think it's
right?
good.
You
Yeah.
know, probably right.
And actually, I think to Keith's point, the meeting norms should be on the agenda to remind us all that, you know, meeting norms are not to be subjective, to follow guidelines, to not say we like something.
So could we put this on next month to come back with I heard training
Yep.
Yeah.
with a specific thing, because if we're all signing, if there's something available and, you know, the window opens and we have to sign up or it's here, there, or someplace else.
So three things. If y'all think of anything else, let me know. Send me an individual email and I'll collect it and I will put it on the agenda for the next month as an agenda item and on our top of the agenda. Number two, I'm going to forget my third one. Number two, I reached out to the state today and they do Zoom training. So they're full for February, but we have an opportunity, I think, for March 12th from 6 to 9 for Zoom training for the basic course. And as many of us that can do that as possible, I will confirm with everyone if that is indeed doable from the state. I'm waiting for them to get back to me, but I was trying to stay away from the end of the month since we get into spring break time for a lot of folks.
Tuesday.
It's a
So we
Tuesday.
would come to a central place?
No,
or-
we don't have to. I mean, we could make it a party and do it together on Zoom, or we could just do it individually, I think.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
So I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
What was your third thing?
I have no idea. No idea. But anything else on this? Great. We will move to the next item, which is administrative approvals and updates.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just an update. Mr. Patterson last month asked about online searches and whether or not there was the ability to kind of make it the historic district status available. And I think you had said that you would search one site and it wasn't available. So I dug in a little bit and just for community's knowledge, whoever watches this video later. So we use a system called BSNA, and if you were to search City of Saugatuck BSNA or Allegan County BSNA, there's two versions, and they both allow you to do a property search and type in an address. So what I found was that on the county site, when you search for a property, it was showing the historic district status. It would say yes or no, it's in the historic district. But on the city's BSNA version, that's public facing, it wasn't. So I talked with BSNA, and it was just a matter of turning on a feature to make something public facing. So they did that. So now both ways of searching, whenever you search for a property address, one of the options that you'll see is whether or not a property's in a historic district. So hopefully that'll help a little bit.
Great.
Allegan County BSNA data is correct.
Yeah, it should be.
reflects Our spreadsheet that we've got somewhere on this database.
So it's pulling from the assessing database, so assuming the assessing database is correct, I mean, we probably could, use a good auditor check at some point to, maybe
So it's been
send
reconciled.
the, so.
It's been reconciled and we believe that our city one now is correct.
Well, before, I think your concern was the city one that wasn't saying whether they were in historic district or not. It wasn't displaying the status. Now it'll say yes or no.
So that's been done.
Yep, it's already active and live. Yep.
Good.
Yep. If it's not, let me know. I
right.
checked it after, while
good.
they were on the phone actually, but
Nico, is there a way for real estate agents in town to like let them know that?
So you know what, I was just thinking, I should check with the MLS and see if if they have a line item that says historic district, yes or no, because that would be something that everybody should know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We don't have anything like that. So
Yeah, that's just another,
I still struggle to think though that someone who's trying to sell a property might not be most interested in telling, I've had a number of people.
I know, I
say,
suppose it's a. it
"Well, I
could
don't
be a
want to live there."
hassle. But I mean, it's something that people do need to know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's two sides to the coin of that,
Right.
and that goes back to the education and awareness and
Yep.
that most
Exactly.
properties in historic districts weather recessions better than non-historic district properties, and they, on an average, are 5 to 15% greater in value because of the designation. So we just need to remind folks of that being in the district is an advantage.
All right.
I've had those numbers drilled in my head for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on administrative approvals?
nothing for me, Mr. Chair.
Communication, Catherine Simon already, anything else, Catherine? Gotcha, thank you.
That was referenced in my letter
It was.
as well.
Yes, I'm making sure we follow the agenda. Any other commission comments?
Yeah, public comments, Mr. Chair.
Did I miss it?
Yep, right after.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's all right. I'm sure, maybe there's some folks ready to speak to you, so.
Come on up. Sorry, I almost missed you. I didn't mean to slight you. And you sat through the whole meeting just to say something, gosh.
Finally, wait till I tell you, no.
All right.
My name is Bruce Henke, and this is my wife Donna. We have the house at 612 Holland. We don't live in the area but we do keep an eye on the goings on with the city and the board, meetings and so on and so forth. We were not able to be here for the last meeting where you approved plans for. a home
Oh,
at the
thank you.
corner
Thank you. Yes.
Firehouse.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And, we knew that was going to happen someday, so yay,
Yeah.
that's a good thing for them. Our only concern on that is, there's a large oak tree in front of our house, the treaty tree. It's kind of a big deal around town that, as we understand it, and, our only concern is that the appropriate measures are taken. And I don't know if there's anybody else we maybe should, talk to, as far as making sure that the homeowners and the builders involved, do whatever they can to try to preserve that tree as best possible, with, heavy equipment running over the root system and so on and so forth. I know there was probably similar concerns when they put the big deck down by Butler with the humongous willow tree that was there. So that's really all we are concerned
Yeah,
about.
go ahead.
Is this an appropriate time for me to comment?
Yeah.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
thank you, Chair Straker. So I've gotten to know Bruce and Donna, and they're great neighbors. I love talking with them, and
We found out he was living next to us.
right,
Yeah,
and
imagine
then
that.
Kevin and Stephanie Burt, who live across the street off Francis, have expressed some of the same concerns about the treaty oak, whatever you want to call it. So I contacted the superintendent of our DPW, Scott Herbert. He's our tree guy. If there's a guy that cares about trees in the community, it's Scott Herbert, first and foremost. To that tree down here, the willow tree in Cook Park, was of great concern to the community when the Butler deck went in. I've given Scott a heads up on this, and that he's gonna be working with the contractor, Patrick Murphy, to make sure that as they begin to work on that the tree itself does not appear to be in the way of what they plan to do. However, it's the roots that are the concern. So Scott will be working with the contractor to ensure the integrity of that, to make sure that whatever they're gonna be doing does not damage that tree.
That would be
So-
great. I mean, that's really our only concern at this time. whatever was involved in the fact that their house is a little lower than it was originally, I guess, planned, that's good too, although it's probably not going to be noticeable for us at all. And since we don't live here full time, it's not that big of a deal, frankly. So, and it does look nice. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for your concern.
Anybody else, public comment? All right. If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second? Would anyone like to discuss that? No. I did remember that one. I just skipped the public comments. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all. Appreciate y'all coming.
Russ was one of them.
First and second on adjournment.
I was first.
Row's not gonna be open anymore.
Laura.
I love their breakfast.
That he might have said something.
They're probably only gonna be open at summers at this restaurant, right?